Hi friends, it's Jess with Our Bipolar. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, just a little bit about me. I have bipolar 1 and I was diagnosed 26 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. This story is about something that happened right after I was diagnosed 26 years ago when I was given some advice that really put me into a bad place. Before we get into that, I will ask you to please subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, like this video, comment, and also you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Go ahead and follow me there, and if you want to DM me, go right ahead. This story happened, well, I say it like it's a story. This actually happened. And this happened to me, like I said, 26 years ago, right after I was diagnosed with bipolar 1. I have a whole video about my diagnosis story and my first full-blown manic episode. I'll link it right up here and also in the description box. And this is not included in that video. This is something that happened shortly after. So just a tiny bit of background. When I went to college, I first went to the University of Pittsburgh and I was in a sorority there. Yes. And, and a friend of mine, I'm going to call him Zach, was in one of the fraternities there, and my sorority had a lot of friends in that fraternity and he was one of them. So trying to think how much information to give. I'll give you a little bit about my first manic episode and diagnosis. So basically what happened, I had been misdiagnosed with depression the year before, my freshman year at Pitt, and then I went back for my sophomore year and basically all hell broke loose. I started going into mania. I did not know what that was, of course. I started having racing thoughts. I was not sleeping. I was shopping more, spending more money. I wasn't really eating and I was getting extremely thirsty to the point where I thought I was addicted to water. And then eventually this progressed into psychosis, and gosh, a few things happened. I fell out of my top bunk and thought the devil was trying to kill me. Yeah, and what else? I thought I had X-ray vision, and also, I mean, this was psychosis. This didn't actually happen, but I thought that I had had multiple personalities that had just fused into one, and I had this like extremely weird energized feeling, which I thought were all the personalities fusing, and I woke up my roommate and told her all this. So yeah, things were getting a bit different for me, and my dad ended up coming to the school and he called my psychiatrist, which I already had from being diagnosed with depression, and they were going to put me in the hospital, but they didn't, because I protested. I mean, not that that should have been enough of a reason, but my dad knew that the local psych wards, he did not want me to be admitted if possible. So I went home with my father and I was put on tranquilizers. And from there on, I went through, gosh, almost a decade of not doing well. I mean, doing better than that, mostly. But I went through a period of rapid cycling, mania, depression, thoughts of wanting to end my life. That went on for about 8 years. But let's back up. Let's back up to right after I was diagnosed with bipolar 1. So I had gone home with my dad and I stayed there, I don't know, a week or two. And then my parents and we thought I should try going back to Pitt. So I did return for maybe a few weeks when I and others realized like this is not going to work. you are not going to be able to stay in college. So I did leave after that. But during that time, when I went back after that big manic episode, you know, in the psychotic episode, I went back to school and I was taking medication, but really like the medication I was taking at that time was not helping. I think it was keeping me out of psychosis, but I was still having a lot of mania and depression as well, but mostly mania because I'm mania dominant. So anyway, getting back to Zach, who was in the fraternity. So he's a friend of mine and we're hanging out. It's actually sad that I had to leave school and that all this happened because I felt like my sophomore year, you know, despite or maybe because of having all of this mania, I had really started to make a lot of friends and some good friends. I was making a lot of like acquaintances, but I was making some good friends and Zach was one of them. He was a really good guy. And, you know, I told him about my bipolar 1 diagnosis. And then he started telling me how, I don't know how to put this. Basically, he started telling me that he no longer gets sick. Like he doesn't get colds, the flu, anything. Because he was able to figure out that it's sort of like mind over matter. And he was able to convince himself every time he would maybe start to get some symptoms, like cold symptoms or whatever, that he wasn't sick and he was able to control his body in that way. And he told me this saying like, I could basically control the bipolar. Like I could not have bipolar, basically, is what he said. And it's really sad because I believed him. I thought, you know, I'm still kind of manic, right? I thought, you know, I can do this. I can figure out a way to just not have bipolar disorder. Like I can control my brain. I can control whether or not I have these symptoms, and Zach can do it. So I can do it. And so I went through the next few weeks of just being devastated when this didn't work. Now, he didn't know that he was basically hurting me by telling me this. He thought he was helping me. And he thought it would work. I mean, he really did. And he was a really smart guy. It wasn't just someone like, oh, just whoever who I didn't trust and I didn't value their opinion. Like, no, I did. And he was a very bright guy. He did very well in school. So, you know, I was gullible at the time. Like one of the things when I'm in mania is that I am very gullible and I'm easily convinced, easily tricked. So I almost felt like this was akin to people who believe that you can pray away your bipolar symptoms or even pray away your bipolar and be saved from having it, right? Which we don't believe, do we? No? Right. That's how I felt. I wasn't trying to pray it away, but I was trying to think it away. I was trying to think away the bipolar and convince my brain that there's nothing happening to cause these symptoms. It was just another thing I had to get over. And right after the diagnosis, to be given that kind of information and for it to not work was hard to take. And then at first I felt like, oh, I'm just not able to do this. Like, I don't have the skill. I'm not smart enough to do this. Look at Zach, he's smart enough. I don't think he was trying to control bipolar symptoms in himself, but he was able, you know, he felt like he was able to control his brain to the point where like he would no longer get sick. I don't know if that's true. In any case, let's not give people advice about their bipolar unless you're a doctor unless you're a psychiatrist, let's not give any kind of medical advice. Let's be there for them. If someone you love has bipolar disorder or another serious mental illness, the best thing you can do is be there for them. Sit with them. Just see how they're doing. Don't say like, why don't you do this? Why don't you, if you exercised, it could go away. If you did yoga, maybe bipolar would go away. Bipolar is not going away. Okay? This is not helpful, and it's actually extremely hurtful. So let's not do any of these things anymore, right? And I know that most of you out there watching, or 99.9% of you, you are wonderful, supportive people, and you are doing everything the right way. And there's not even really like a right or wrong way. It's just don't give medical advice. That's it. I mean, I don't give medical advice to someone who has cancer or anything. Like, I don't give medical advice to my mom who has high cholesterol. I hope in telling these stories, I know we all have these kind of interesting stories that have to do with our bipolar diagnoses, and this is just one of mine that I've never told. Tell me one of your stories. I'd love to hear it down in the comments. All right, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.